Thanks for being here. Subscribe to Cheating Stories Best, so you don't miss new stories.
The wife decides to fight back about cheating, but it's too late, the husband already knows. Today's story has a similar plot. Enjoy watching it. That evening, I returned home a little later than expected. There was a meeting in which I had to take part, although I didn't really want to be there. The two people I mediated with were both frankly not very nice. Both were more interested in inflicting as much pain on the other person as possible. They were not interested in resolving the situation, they were interested in causing damage. I could understand why this whole situation was a disaster from a business perspective, but it was still my job to find a good solution so that both parties could walk away feeling like they got what they wanted. This is nearly impossible in situations where one or both parties were more interested in hurting the other party than in resolving the situation, or worse, where the very act of resolving would actually be the painful part. Nobody walks away from this situation feeling satisfied, I can tell you that. More than once, I have had to admit defeat and simply tell both parties that at this point, the lawyers will have to intervene because only hurting the other person will resolve the situation. At least in situations where both parties are trying to hurt each other out of blind rage and resentment, there is a chance that one or the other will come to their senses, and this is where I come in. It's probably customary to introduce yourself. I'm Mike Absalom. I am a mediator, and a good one, so to speak, for a company that is hired as an arbitrator by law firms. Most of the time, our work is woven into contracts. If a contract breaks down, instead of running to lawyers, two parties, or three, or even four sometimes, come to us. We sit down, try to understand the situation, what everyone wants, and try to come to an agreement. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. What we do is not legally binding, we enter into an agreement in spirit, not in law. Sometimes what we do takes the form of a contract, but mostly it's a way of getting people to come together and find solutions to their problems, not so much about the letter of the law, but about its spirit. So yeah, that's what I do. I've always done it in one form or another, and I have a special way of working. I come from a large family, 6 children, 5 boys and a girl. I was second in command and seemed to be constantly mediating disagreements. Mom was a single mother. Our dad died 2 days after Benji, the youngest, was born. He was killed by a drunk driver while crossing the road after buying flowers for my mother. She never recovered from this, but she threw herself into caring for us. She did the best she could, but the reality was that even with 2 parents, providing shelter, clothing, food, and attention equally for all 6 would be difficult, let alone just one parent. She was minding her own business, selling real estate, and we were what our generation called latchkey children. We would come home, cook, watch TV, annoy each other, and somehow I would always end up being the middleman. Mediation is an interesting career path. I didn't want this to be a career choice, it just happened that way. I originally worked in a factory, on the shop floor, making metal gadgets for all sorts of things, golf carts, ballpoint pens, you name it. If it had little pieces of metal in it, we made parts for it. In short, I was the voice of reason on a variety of issues and dealt with it when needed. I have no idea why I was chosen, perhaps I was the most sensible one. Anyway, I was working in this metal shop. It was in college when I was taking a creative writing course. Yeah, I have no idea what I was thinking either, and there was a dispute between the management and the workers. Some of us were allies, some were not. I was not one, but somehow I ended up representing the workers. There was a union representative there, and he showed up sometimes, but half the time when management wanted to talk to the workers, he was nowhere to be found. Part of me still believes that they, the management, did this on purpose. Anyway, I ended up talking a lot, and although I don't think management was very interested, we managed to come up with something. This happened again 4 months later, the same thing, some demanding that we don't have a holiday in August because a big order came in or something like that. Anyway, this time they brought in an arbitration company that basically did the same thing I did, only without bias, as management put it. It didn't really matter, the arbitration company talked to me and the union representative anyway, and then simply passed it on to management. All they really did was act as intermediaries. We worked things out to avoid trouble, as management put it, and everyone got something out of it. I know it. I received a job offer from an arbitration company, and so I changed my college major to business studies with a minor in psychology and went to work for them instead. 2 years later, I graduated from university and have been working as a mediator ever since. And believe me, I've been the go-between for some strange things: movie companies and actors' agents, car companies and their employees, lawyers who are partners, even a bunch of competitors in surfing competitions and the company that organized them. I've even mediated several marriages. I wasn't trying to be a marriage counselor. I figured these guys knew what they were doing. I just show up when all else fails, and we have to separate the CD collection. But I have a special methodology. This is what works for me, not for anyone else. People react when they see vulnerability and honesty, so when I mediate, I try to show people my vulnerability and my honesty. I sit there, talk to both sides independently to try to get a feel for who these people are, what they think is important, and how they feel about the situation. What they want out of it, what they think about the other side. Basically, I try to get a feel for both parties to the conflict. I should note that I have been told off more than once by senior partners for using this terminology, but this is how I am starting to view clients, and it is working for me. I just need to shut up so I don't have to use those words. From there, I can usually find a way to get each party to think in terms of what the other person thinks is important. It may not be for them, or it may be, and that is the cause of the conflict. Either way, connecting with other people is of utmost importance. So, wife. Yes, I have to talk about her. She's the love of my life. I know everyone says that, right? But it's true. It's like one of those things you say about children, how great it is to have them. Those are just words for people who never had them. I find this whole thing about announcing you're having children really interesting and not the least bit funny. You say we're pregnant, and even that makes me smile. I would just have a night with her and have a great time, and from that point on, it's 100% her. She'll raise it, suffer discomfort, have to stop drinking, end up peeing a lot, and finally suffer the humiliation of birth itself, not to mention the bodily problems that may come after, from stretch marks to postpartum depression. And yet the guy is handing out cigars. Yes, you did a lot of things, idiot, and then there's what all your friends tell you: go get drunk, you won't be able to as soon as the baby is born, go to the movies, you won't be able to as soon as the baby is born, go eat, you won't be able to as soon as the baby is born, go to sleep, you won't be able to as soon as the baby is born. And my personal favorite, go have a night, you won't be able to once the baby is born. And then they drop one line at the end, but it will be the best thing ever. Yes, it looks like it sounds great. I mean, so many people say this, so they should mean it, but damn, you get all sorts of very explicit and specific reasons why it's going to suck, and then you're told at the end, but it's great, it's the best thing ever. And I can't help but notice that there's nothing specific about it. But given how I feel about Christy, I can quite believe it. By the way, that's her name. It was Christy Fenton, and now she's Christy Absalom, or at least that's how it will be for the next couple of months. In any case, I felt the same way about Christy, and she felt the same way about me when it came to kids. I knew that my little joke about the party was both true and coming from a place of darkness. For us, the whole prospect of having children was a non-starter. During her first period, Christy discovered enormous pain and feminine problems, as she put it. Her parents took her to the hospital and discovered that her tubes were distorted. Surgery was required. They were bandaged, and the eggs were removed because otherwise, it would be agony every month at best and life-threatening at worst. Apparently, it was described to her as a cancer waiting to happen. So any chance of Christy having children was thrown out the window. By the time we were together, she was already over it, or as over as a woman could be. As far as I understand, a woman does not consider herself a woman if she cannot perform one of the most basic functions of a woman. I don't know if I bought it, but with Christy, I knew it was a dark place that neither of us wanted to look too deeply into. This suited me just fine. I loved children and assumed they would be somewhere in my future, but when the choice came between having Christy in my life or having children, it was an easy decision. We talked a lot about this, and a few years ago, Christy even announced that we could have a surrogate pregnancy. We looked into it, and they tested me. It turned out I was fine and even started looking into surrogates and the procedure. But I was never completely optimistic about it, and something just didn't feel right. Christy was thrilled, but when it came time to do it, I just couldn't do it. I don't know why, but something was wrong. It wasn't until Christy fainted when I said no that I realized what it was. Christy carried some great unfounded guilt about not being able to have children, and the whole surrogacy thing was both an attempt to make me happy and also what she considered her punishment from God. I have no idea where it all came from, but it was there, and it took some therapy to put it all together and begin to address it. But you do what you have to do. I knew something was wrong, and it seemed like my subconscious knew more than my conscious mind, although in this case, it failed me quite badly. So there were never any children, we never adopted anyone. It just didn't feel right either, although I have no idea why. And we decided that if we had to remain childless, we would accept it. We traveled, saw the world, ran with the bulls, had breakfast at the base of the pyramids, played hide-and-seek in the ruins of Pompeii, dove in Pearl Harbor, got blackout drunk for weeks wine tasting in Napa Valley, and jumped off the Sydney Harbor Bridge. We lived life. Lifelong friends went their separate ways when they had children. They had a different life than us, and we all knew it. There was a lot we had to get together, and at first, we tried, but no one was ever free. No one could hire nannies, and even when they could, they had to be home by 11 o'clock and couldn't even get a good job since they had to be sober to take care of their children when they got home. As they left our downtown apartment in Bellevue, a wealthy suburb of Seattle, we looked at each other, giggled, and said, "It's a good thing we don't have kids." It was all a bit pathetic, and we were obviously covering our own holes, but we were also drunk. And then we had slow, lazy intimate on the balcony. We were 3 stories high, so we weren't afraid of being seen. So there were some advantages. We've been married for almost 12 years. We met at a hockey match. I had just moved to Seattle from college in Missouri, and before that, from the Chicago suburbs, where I grew up. I didn't know too many people, and someone from work invited me, and I honestly had nothing better to do that Saturday. 2 teams of fellow students going at each other, this level of violence was something to watch. As far as I could tell, this was a great opportunity for the women on both teams to beat the living crap out of the men on the field and get applauded for it. Sometimes it was difficult to tell who were women and who were men. The women were so lively and rode on horseback. I had just watched one guy get hit in the shin with a hockey stick so hard that his ankle guard was cracked, and there was blood everywhere when I realized that there was someone next to me, holding a glass of something and looking at the scene in front of her. "Do you think you will ever want to be on the student team again?" she asked, looking at me. Me? I know I wouldn't. "Hobbling home is not the way to finish anything," I said, somewhat hesitantly. She smiled at me, looked back at the man who was being escorted off the field, supported by 2 teammates, and said, "But not like that. It was nice talking to you." She nodded and walked away. Christy was about 5 feet 7 inches, brown-haired but streaked with blonde, a somewhat round face, beautiful eyes highlighted by dark makeup and long eyelashes, a proportionate upturned nose, stunning cheekbones, and a round, pouty mouth that, if you focused on it, was everything you wanted to kiss. Her eyes were incredibly blue, and she blinked too often. She was well built, nothing too big, nothing too small, a real fifth place that had shape without being huge, somewhat narrow in the hips, but overall just an amazing package. I watched her leave and almost kicked myself for my unconvincing answers, shaking my head sadly. Later that day, I had another opportunity when I visited a temporary bar set up outside the field. They only sold cheap crap wine and beer and pre-made cocktails that tasted, well, pre-made. I was buying a glass of the least offensive wine. Yes, I'm a snob. I know about wine tasting. My mother's sister, my Aunt Nancy, worked part-time as a reviewer, and I learned a lot from her about the nose, bouquet, and other nonsense that goes along with reviewing. I also learned that 95% of it was complete crap done to impress other people who had no idea. At the end of the day, wine, like art, is about what works for you and what doesn't. Nothing in the world makes a wine worth $100, let alone $1,000, except your willingness to pay for it. I bought the only thing that didn't make me flinch and turned to leave, only to find this adorable creature that had been talking to me earlier standing behind me in line, fiddling with some small black box with what looked like a pen. She was so focused on this that she didn't notice me standing there, patiently waiting for her to notice and get out of my way. I finally cleared my throat. She looked at me with some irritation, realized the situation, and said, I just got this, and I can't stop playing with it. She picked up a box that had what looked like a gray LCD screen on it. This is the taker, one of the new PDAs, she said, as if that explained everything. I just looked at her, and she said, "Sorry, let me get out of your way." She stepped aside. I walked around her, then just stopped. She took the drink, turned around, and now I was standing in her way. She just looked at me, and a slight smile played on her lips. "We must stop such chance meetings," she said with feigned urgency. I smiled back. "Let's get out of line and talk," and we did. For a whole hour. I learned that the visor was one of those new digital personal assistants that Palm pioneered. I found out that she was addicted to gadgets. I learned that she was an accomplished librarian and historian. I found out that she only came over today because a friend was playing, and she couldn't figure out how to turn him down without seriously hurting his feelings. And I found out that she was free next Friday and really wanted to see the latest Harry Potter movie. But hey, walking alone, the hint was heavy, and I swear to God, I got it. And that was just the beginning. 4 weeks later, we were in bed, and 10 months later, we were married. I could go on about the chaotic wedding. My whole family showed up, and it was like a Clampett reunion. Her relatives were there too, much higher class than us, eyeing us suspiciously over their bifocals and then cheerfully shouting when someone on my side noticed and engaged them in a fight. I could talk about her family, one sister, a brother in the army doing God knows what, God knows where, God knows with whom, and parents long divorced and now friends. I only met her brother a few times. He was often abroad, but he seemed like a pretty decent guy. He cared about his sister, but he wasn't blind to who she was. We drank a pint or 10 of beer. These army guys know how to drink, and had some, well, I would say, interesting conversations. I learned a lot more about her early boyfriends than I wanted to. I could talk about our years together. We grew up together, had fun, explored life, and generally acted like teenagers when we thought we could get away with it. We were partners in every sense of the word. We belonged to several groups together. I read poetry, she came and tried. She drew, and I, to be honest, didn't even try. I could read and write, but that was where my skills ended. I didn't even know which end of the brush to use. I was trying to do abstracts, and she came up, looked, and commented, "I see you're still 7 years old," and then she laughed hysterically. We both had state-of-the-art mountain bikes and used them a lot. The Seattle area is littered with bike paths, and we made the most of them. This was our main exercise, and we loved it. We even went on weekend bike rides to Portland and Vancouver. I don't want this to sound like some hippie nirvana. We fought, we had disagreements. I swear to God, this woman was very hot-tempered. When she was royally angry, she could turn every room white. She had a sinister sense of sarcasm that could really cut you to the core. And when she got really angry, she would do it right in front of other people, where my only option was to either back down and look like a weakling or start a catfight in front of our friends. I tried both approaches, but neither of them worked. My retreat often made the problem go away faster, but it made me look like crap in front of our friends. And I fought through it while maintaining my pride. She knew damn well what she was doing. It was strange because to everyone else, she was an absolute delight. Even though she was disgusted with the people we were with, and she might have been displeased with some of the people we knew in our social circles, she was so polite and achingly sweet to them. She only showed me her great displeasure when she felt there was a need for it. In a way, I felt extremely privileged. Only with me did she feel comfortable enough to take off her mask. It's a compliment. On the other hand, sometimes I was seriously worried about her mental health. But what really pissed her off the most was that I was trying to use my damn Jedi mental tricks on her. Apparently, when I get into mediator mode, as she calls it, I unconsciously adopt a certain posture and facial expression. She learned what that looked like very early on, and it was one thing that, no matter what we argued about, was guaranteed to take her up a level or two. It was at these moments that the inevitable ridiculous "your family sucks too" was heard. There's no argument that cannot be made worse by involving the family in it. Mind you, she also realized that involving my mother in this matter was not something she should undertake. The weekend spent in a motel because I kicked her out proved that. In the interests of fairness, however, I should also point out that it's not like she often had nothing to shout about. I was no picnic to live with. I'm moody, can fly off the handle over something small, I tend to look down on stupid people, and I've been known to sometimes enjoy a strip club, even knowing what it represents in terms of the exploitation of women. I was just as capable as she of provoking an unpleasant situation, although I preferred to deal with it behind closed doors. She knew when she crossed the line. She knew this very quickly once her fever subsided. I would often get a lot of apologies, and then the next week, I would have difficulty even getting up in the morning. I need to talk a little about our intimate life. It was nothing short of a spectacle, well, at least that's what I thought. We were nothing less than the perfect couple in the bedroom, or in the living room, or even in the back seat of the car. One night in Victoria, Canada, we explored each other. We were honest about our fantasies. We did some risky things, like going out to dinner with her without underwear and a short mini dress, never knowing who she was and all that. We played a couple of games where I picked her up at a motel bar until one night some guy hit on her and wanted her to say no, and I had to explain the facts of life to him, and we never did it again. I've never done this with what I know now, who the hell knows if she did. Despite all this, we were happy. At least, that's what I thought. My work was sometimes time-consuming, and in some situations, I had to travel. I was employed by my company, and to some extent, I had to go where the work was, but it never lasted long, and I would be home again. And that didn't happen very often. So back to that evening I was talking about. I walked into our apartment with a beautiful view, threw my bag on a chair, and shouted, "I'm home, what's for dinner?" The lights were on, and I knew she was home. I parked next to her little Mazda Miata MX-5 convertible in the parking lot under the building. Entering our apartment, I took a beer and wandered into the living room. And there she sits on the sofa, her knees drawn up, looking at me and biting her lips. However, it was not she who stopped my movement, it was the guy sitting next to her. "Darling," she said weakly. I just stopped and stared, not believing what I was seeing. Her body language was contrite, upset, nervous, and stoic, all in the same pose. You can't live as close to someone as we did for so many years and not know what you're seeing. Well, apparently, you can, as I discovered. But right then and there, I could read the whole situation as clear as day. The guy, well, he was young. He had a smile on his face that was non-confrontational, not a joke, but definitely somewhere around there, maybe a cousin. It was classic arrogance, which was masked on his part by some semblance of sensitivity. Hell, for all I know, he might even believe it. But the body language was a classic display of obsession and the need to imprint it on subsequent events. I was told without words that he was the alpha male here, in terms of owning her. She leaned forward, and he leaned back, both arms played out on either side of the couch, one behind her. It was clear that she leaned forward slightly so that it would not appear as if he was hugging her, but it didn't take Einstein long to realize what exactly she hadn't removed. She did her best to keep the situation from looking too bad, losing sight of the fact that the more she tried, the worse it actually looked. Now she looked more guilty than remorseful. Just by looking at the two of them, I understood what was going on, at least partially. I knew what was happening. I didn't know what they were getting at, whether it was a confession and a promise not to repeat it or something else. But I knew what happened before that. You can't help but see when you see something like this. I just stared at them for a moment longer and then plopped down in the chair next to the sofa, at right angles to it. This put me right next to this guy, who was looking at me. I'm sure he thought he was worried. I saw Christy frown as I sat down, and I could read her expression. Their seating arrangement was really bad. If I get violent, she won't be able to stop me. But now it was too late. Apparently, there was a script they were playing by, and I had to hold back the anger that was forming in my stomach to figure out what the script was. I opened the beer, sighed, and took a long sip. She bit her lip again, and I knew she was going to say something, but she didn't say anything. I assumed it would be something like this. Yes, beer would be nice now. I chuckled as a thought occurred to me. Funny how you react to sudden extreme stress. I've seen this before, and it always puzzled me. People say the stupidest things or make some remarks or raise some issue that has absolutely nothing to do with the current situation. This comes up quite often in my work, and I have always quietly wondered what is going on in their heads at that very moment. There seems to be a complete denial of the reality of the situation, and here I am feeling it myself. What? Christy asked with slight irritation in her voice, which she immediately hid. I took another sip of beer and said, I know you so well I can read your body language. I just thought it was impossible to hide your body language in a situation like this, especially when you know it so well. And then it occurred to me that that's exactly what you did, wasn't it? I had no idea. She winced slightly, then took a breath. Well, yes, I think so, but part of it is interference, I guess, I interjected, dripping with sarcasm. So that's what you call this little event? Why not do something better? Maybe we can get together. Shall we even go to Jesus? She pulled away before I could stop her, although I shouldn't have done that. I'm usually better, Mike, she said reproachfully, using that two-tone way that people emphasize a two-syllable word. Oh, of course, dear wife, I said, placing the same emphasis on the word wife. Continue. I wouldn't want to ruin your script. I glanced at the guy sitting next to her and noticed that he had one of my beer bottles in front of him. The white-hot rage I was feeling really beginning to feel became an inch wider. Mike, you just said it yourself, you had no idea. I think it's fair to say that not only did you not really notice, but there was nothing to notice, right? No telltale signs, no dips in affection or night, right? She was right, but I didn't even notice. I wasn't really looking either, but implicit trust will do that to you. But still, I'm an observant guy, my job depends on it, and I don't take it for granted. Even 11 years later, I was still buying her flowers for no reason, sending them to work, picking her up for the weekend, buying her little trinkets, anything to show her how much I cared about her, which from my point of view made the whole thing even more disgusting. My mind was racing at 320 miles per hour, asking questions I had no answers to. Have I given her enough? What more could she want? What prompted her to do this? Why? I tried my best to control my emotions. I will never get answers if I leave, despite the strong temptation. I was smart enough to know that at some point, I most likely would, but I wanted answers first, and this was the way to get them. I wouldn't get them all, and she would outright lie to me about some of them, it was inevitable. I knew she still loved me, and she wouldn't want to hurt me any more than she had to, so I knew she would lie about things she thought would happen. It was just a man, but that's the point. I knew that she loved me, I was 100% sure of this, even with evidence that this love was shared around. I was still convinced of it, maybe I was fooling myself, but I don't know. You just know some things in your life, and I knew she loved me. I guess I was just fooling myself about the part of the sentence that was supposed to follow, to the exclusion of everything else. I just gestured with my beer, not trusting myself to speak. Christy took this as confirmation and continued in the calmest voice she could muster. So, logically speaking, if I never gave you less than what you always got from me, how would that affect you? I'm still the same person I always was. She pointed to the man sitting next to her, just an extra dimension. This is all. Nothing changes. I still love you and will always love you and be everything to you that I have always been, and I want it to stay that way. Surely you see this, you have nothing to lose here. So that's how it was. She was actively hoping that I would go for it. Look at it from her point of view. It was smart. She tried to do to me what I do professionally, make me see it from her point of view. Walking in her shoes metaphorically. There was silence for a second. It's not about you, darling. In no case is there the slightest flaw in you, please understand this. You rock my world and always will. What are you just saying, Christ? I said, surprised that I hadn't knocked over a coffee table and hurt someone yet. Did you just need more than I could give? Flowers, gifts, weekends away from home, love? I chuckled at the last word. Just not enough for you? Does he have more in his pants than me? This is all I. Chris's restraint began to crack, her voice and face began to tremble. I saw tears welling up in her eyes. The guy sitting next to her leaned forward with a worried expression on his face, looking at me with hostility. Chris, he said in an unexpectedly deep voice, baby, everything is fine. Stick to what we talked about. His hand, resting on the back of the sofa, moved forward to cup her body. I leaned forward and said, "I can call you Dick, right? We are almost blood brothers." And with that, I put my hand on his hand, which was still lying on his lap. In one smooth motion, I grabbed his index finger and simply pulled it up and back. He had no choice but to move away or risk breaking it with Christ's arm wrapped around him. There was nowhere for him to go. And when I lifted my finger and pressed harder, angling him, he twisted his body to relieve the pressure. He could no longer move, trapped by the hand behind Christ's back. "Listen, idiot, my wife is mine, no matter what you do. She is still my wife." I put extra emphasis on the word, moving my finger back even more. "You're sitting on my couch, in my apartment, and drinking my beer. And, frankly, brain crap, I'm not impressed by any desire you might have to be a white knight. You're here because this Christy make a sound slightly at the word wants you to be here. But I don't want you to be here. So shut up and don't say a word or something else bad will happen. I have your 5th place, and I will break the other 4 fingers on your hand to do this. Don't make me any angrier than you already are, or more bad will happen to you." It's clear he nodded frantically, released his finger, and leaned back in his chair, removing his hand from Christy, rubbing his wounded finger vigorously, and looking at me with narrowed eyes. I held his gaze. Not a single word, remember this. I looked over at Christy, who turned even paler but then pulled herself together. "That wasn't necessary, Mike. James wouldn't try to hurt you. He's only here for me, to show support, just so you know. He's not a threat, indeed. How good for him. Still, he better shut up. I won't hit you, but I swear to God, I want to hit someone right now, and he's here. Mike, please, please understand, we didn't choose this, it just happened." "What happened, Christy? Did you trip and fall on him?" I read this line in several stories, and it just came out. She sighed. "No, nothing like that. We just worked together, and this happened. I'm sorry. I do not know what to say. I love 2 men. I love you. I have always done this, and will always do this, but I love James too. I can't explain it, it's not the same. There are parts that are there, but I love you both a little differently. Please, please try to understand." I took another sip of beer, contemplating my answer. I put down the beer and simply said, "Well, I'm probably not your main prize anymore." She bridled. "No, that's not true. You know that I love you, you can't doubt it. I have never shown you anything but respect and love, and you know it, even when." She paused, then continued, "Other things were happening. I was doubly sure that you never received less than you needed from me. This will never change." She looked at me intently, as if she wanted me to challenge her. She had already expressed her thoughts in such a way that it meant that this would be the case, the classic formulation of leadership. You speak as if this were already a situation, and people then believed that it was so and began to look for ways to accommodate it in their reality. Not today, Christy, I thought. The thing is, with what I do, all this vulnerability, bringing people together through common themes, playing on their sense of importance and fair play, while it can really do wonders in bringing people together, it can, in the right hands, do the exact opposite. And then I got angry. She needed to know my pain and that she had caused it, and that she needed to know the reality of her future, and I was going to ruin that future, all with words, right there and right then. What she wanted, I didn't have it in me to give her, and by that, sitting next to her and by the way she acted, she was signaling that this was all she would accept. I had no intention of giving it to her, so by the rules of my profession, it was all over except for dividing up the CD collection. I cocked my head to the side. I knew what she appreciated. I knew how hard it was for her, how she would struggle with having to do it. I knew that after this day, it would be difficult for her to look at herself in the mirror. It's time to lean into the pain. What if I say no? What if I told you I won't live like this, Christy? What I don't share, and you shouldn't either. What about the vows we made? Doesn't that mean anything? She had enough conscience to look away. I understand your anger, Mike. It would be the same for me, but I'm here to help you get through it. Look, this has been going on for a while, you never knew. Now you know, because I respect you, and I think you should know. I don't know what will happen here, but I know what I want. I think you can live with this. I think it will be. So what we have is too great not to, and you know it. You know that we are both better together than apart. This," she again pointed to the man's head, "does not affect us. I don't know how to make you understand this. It's like a second job or something." She had no idea about my anger. She had all the classic symptoms of someone who had given up the concept of understanding a reaction in a negative way because there was simply no way to deal with it or acknowledge that you were the cause of it. Most people did this when they did something bad or unpleasant. They simply ignored the amount of reaction because otherwise, it would actually mean that what they did was seriously wrong, and no one wants to do that because then they'll have to do something about it. I snorted and said, "You really believe that, don't you? How will this work, Christy? How are you going to heal my ego? How are you going to fix all this?" She blinked and, to her credit, collected herself. "I don't know. You'll have to tell me anything you want, okay?" "No problem. Tell that fifth-place wiper you're done and you want him out of here now, and he might lose your number." I leaned forward and looked into her eyes. "That's exactly what I want, Christ. Do it." She looked at me for a second, then looked away. "So, nothing?" I inquired in an icy tone. There was silence for a moment. I heard the grandfather clock on the wall that her mother gave us for our 10-year anniversary chime, counting down the minutes. "Mike, why can't you understand? Nothing should change." "Change? We will do it here and now because I will not run behind your back. This is killing me. I need to be free, and you want me to be free, right? And I have the respect for you that you should see to accept," I finished for her. She nodded, and a tear glinted in the corner of her eye. "How long have we been married, Christ?" I suddenly asked. 11 years old," she answered uncertainly. "Right. And in all this time, have I ever let you know that I'll be okay, that I will overcome all this and accept it?" She looked away again. Score another goal for Mike's team. She insulted my intelligence and her knowledge of me, willful ignorance of reality. "No," she answered quietly, then looked back. "But you can. I know that you can. We have a life based on unfiltered love for each other. If you love me, if you really love me, you would let me do this. Indeed, unfiltered love. And this is how you show it. Fall in love with someone else and sleep with him? Is this what unfiltered love is? Lord, what is unfiltered hatred in your world? Kill me first. It's not fair, Mike. I didn't plan this. Nobody wants to hurt you," she pleaded. "Well, good luck with that. I'm really sorry. Like me? Not much, right?" I took another sip of beer. I couldn't taste anything, it was just cold and wet. At that point, I considered my next gambit. I knew it was difficult for her to come to me with this, that's why wiping her fifth place was with her, otherwise, she would never have managed it. But she had no idea of the depth of my pain. Hell, even I didn't know. "Christy, how do you think I feel now?" I asked quietly. She looked at the guy sitting next to her, James. He nodded to her, encouraging her. "I think you must be injured, angry. He was upset with me for I did this to us, for you, but you don't understand. It's not what you think. It's something you shouldn't be afraid of. Everything will be fine. We can figure this out. I still love you and always will. I need you to understand this. If that's all you understand, I will always love you. I will always be yours, and you will be mine. We just have to get through it, just a little, and we will be together always. I don't think you have the key. I really do not know. You tore my heart out, you know that? Everything I thought we were based on was a lie. The pain came out of me fresh and smoking." "No, that's not true," Christy interrupted me. "In fact, of the matter, this is wrong. I'm still the same person, you are still the same person. It's still the same marriage, there's just another dimension, new axis. You must understand this. Nothing changes, you should have known." "Known? That's all? Why is this, Christ? Why do I need to know this? Why couldn't you just keep sneaking around?" I was ready to go off topic for a moment because I wanted to show her something. She looked a little puzzled. "Would you really prefer that I continue cheating?" she asked. "No, I didn't say that. I asked why I need to know this because it was killing me," she said in a slightly confused voice, not understanding where I was going with this. I secretly walked around the house and tried my best to be the same as I always was at home, and it wasn't fair to you, right? "So, you were snooping around. Why is this? Why was it killing you?" "Well, because it was." She fell silent, realizing what I was getting at. "Wrong," I added. She just looked at me. "The reason you were snooping around is that you knew it was wrong and that I would be angry, upset, hurt, angry, and everything else if I knew. You knew you were doing something bad and destructive, so instead, you secretly beat around the bush. You hid your evil behavior because you knew it was wrong." There was silence again. "We just had to find a way to tell you to minimize the pain. How do you think you're doing?" I asked in response, pursing my lips in sarcasm. She didn't say anything, but still. "You have no idea how I feel right now. Everything you said are just words. Oh, I'm sure this is hard for you. It's so hard. But damn, neither of you is going to give up, are you? Just good old Mike. I'm the one who has to accept this. It's a done deal for you. You will not lose anything. All you have to do is have your cake and eat it too. And Dick here, well, I don't know what he's missing. I suspect nothing. He gets you without guilt and not in secret." He looked at me and wanted to say something, but I glared at him, looked at his finger, and put down the beer, as if preparing for something. Apparently, he changed his mind. "Mike, James wants me all the time, just like you. I try to do everything I can. Cut me some slack. I told him just like I tell you that he won't have me like you now. I have 2 men to take care of, and there is no way I'm going to change. You're such a damn idiot. Christy, listen to me. Of course, it is. The very fact that we are having this conversation means that I have changed, as you so charmingly put it. I no longer get you exclusively, which I note is not what I signed up for when we exchanged marriage vows. And you too. The best thing you can do is get away from this idiot right now and, frankly, throw yourself at my mercy. And it's all I don't share. Stop asking, you know better. But you have no idea about my pain. I want you to imagine if I had an affair. Imagine, Christy, imagine that I just came home and told you that I have been sleeping with her for several months. I love her and want to continue." I looked at her and realized that my words had gone in one ear and out the other. She was too caught up in her own situation to even process what I was saying with any degree of reality. Then she opened her mouth and confirmed it. "Well, I wouldn't like it very much, but I would find a way to make peace with it." "Damn it, you would. The only reason you say that is because of the situation you want me to accept. Let's be honest." "Oh, sorry. I shouldn't have asked that, should I?" That was the end of it. Even she had to admit the honesty of that statement. "You destroyed me, Christy. You destroyed us. Don't you understand? I don't care if you keep saying that, nothing changes. Everything changes and there is no escape from this. No matter what happens now, you will always betray me. Always. Nothing can change that. I will never agree to this and I will have to ask you to leave, as you obviously want this to continue. And even if you didn't, how the hell would I ever trust you again? You hid this from me very effectively for, I don't know, how long. If you say, okay, I'm done, what then? How would I know if you decided to start over with the laughing boy or someone else? How can I trust you now, Christy? But you're not going to stop, are you? Do you want it?" It hit home. I could see she didn't see it that way. The fact of the matter is that people who make deals with the devil never do. You made your choice and it's not me, isn't it? Because if that were the case, then this wouldn't have happened a long time ago. This is what I want, but you won't give it to me. Do you have any idea what it's like, Christy? And you, no, of course, you don't. You just took everything I had to give, and then you took that idiot too. And now you want to legitimize this choice? Well, it sure as hell doesn't work that way. We have already made our choice. You can't do it again. I don't have the slightest idea what awaits me in life, but this is what I can tell you. I won't trust any woman as long as I live. You did this to me, Christy. So thank you. Only you. I don't know if I'll ever be able to forget what you did and what you're trying to force me to accept. I think it's bad, but you're so blinded by having it all in a small period of time. You truly believe you can have it all, and I'm the one who needs to be convinced. Well, off you go, honey. Life is not like that. The reality is that you will never know how much you hurt me today, never, until someone does it to you. But that won't happen, will it? Because you'll be too busy getting what you want. Oh, Mike, I'm so sorry. I do not want to hurt you. I really don't know. Please don't think like that. Tears were streaming down her face. How the hell am I supposed to feel, Christy? Whatever you got from me wasn't enough, was it? What kind of feeling is it to have for a man whom you should love without exception? Tell me, how should I feel? I don't even know what I did wrong or what you didn't get, and you'll never tell me honestly, will you? You certainly haven't been honest until now, have you? There was only silence. Christy opened her arms and leaned forward hesitantly as if about to hug me. I raised my hand. No thank you. The last thing I want is merciful love from you. I almost called her a B********, but I had to control myself. As it was, I didn't even notice the tears in my eyes until I wiped them away. It was strange struggling with rage and pain at the same time. It was a strange combination. It's like you want to throw someone off a cliff, but you do it by holding onto them and jumping yourself. Your mind is racing all over the place, seeing everything to its logical conclusion. She needed some understanding of the havoc she had caused here. Like most people who have done something terrible, she didn't want to face it. Instead, trying to minimize it and find ways to put it into words so it didn't sound so bad. She needed to do it because deep down, she knew how bad it would be and how devastating it would be. And she didn't want to face that sense of responsibility. There are some things you can never come back from. The more I convince her of this, the more responsibility she will have to bear. And I knew her. She had a self-image that didn't accept that she will suffer forever knowing that she is to blame for this and will not be able to fix anything. Christy sniffled again, and the guy next to her moved as if he wanted to say something, but I looked at him, and he decided not to. There was a pause, then I asked, so I will also sleep with other women? Is this part of the master plan? Christy looked at me and frowned. I loved that frown. Her nose wrinkled, and there were wrinkles between her eyes. Well, I hope you don't do that. In an ideal world, you would be content with just me. In the past, this was always enough, but I realized that I'm not really one to judge or say no, so I won't like it very much, but I'll have to live with it. With reservations, of course. With reservations? I stammered. This woman was unreal. How the hell was I married to her for 11 years and didn't see this? What did I smoke and drink? Is love really so blind? Am I really that stupid? Well, don't fall in love. How are you? You mean, too easy? She frowned again. Another blow. C3, C4, and C5. Next, please. Maybe this time I can get her battleship. No, I mean something else. If you want to test another woman, I wouldn't like it very much, but like I said, I can't be too judgmental. I understand it. No, you must be sure, like me, that this means nothing. The most important thing is that you are mine, and I am yours, as always. I had to laugh, except for the last 3 months? 6? While you and the clown were having fun here, she sighed. It's not like that at all, Mike. I never stopped loving you. I just broadened my horizons, that's all, she said. Thank you. I like my horizons where they are, I answered. She beamed, obviously seeing that I had no intention of looking for another woman. Great. Well, as I said, while you and I are walking, nothing changes. I love you just as much as before. Nothing changes, she said. That one statement really made me angry, and that's when I knew our relationship was over. As much as I've ever done, which is basically as much as it took her to jump into bed with another man. And since she's done it once, she'll do it again. What will I get, Christy? Part-time wife? This is how it will work, part-time with me and part-time with Captain Hook here, I said, nodding at the guy, James, who was still rubbing his finger. It wouldn't be like that at all, she said with an obvious tremble. We thought we could alternate the time. 2 weeks with you, a few days with James. At least, sometimes when you're not there, you will never miss a time. You get most of it as it is now. You would be a priority. I shook my head and laughed the way people usually laugh when nothing is even remotely funny. You're just a bag of, you know that? How did I miss this all these years? She even smiled back at me and said, love is blind, really, I said dryly, in one of those last word tones. I thought again. I was also surprised that I was having this conversation at all, but then, this would probably be one of the last ones I ever had with her, so we needed to get everything out now. I was shocked at myself when I realized that this was exactly how I felt, but then, on reflection, I decided that it was true. And Rooster Face, I said, nodding at James. Does he agree with this agreement? He looked at her, then at me, and smiling again, hesitated for a second, waiting for her confirmation, and then nodded. I turned my attention back to Christy. So, it just happened? Nothing was planned? Did you just fall in love? No plans or intentions? I really wanted to give her the rope at this point, and I was not disappointed. Yes, you have to believe me. I wasn't looking for this. I was happy just, even more, except for this moment, by hurting you. I suffer too. When does a piper need to be paid? It's a pity that it's me who pays this piper and not you, Christy, I said. It's not easy for me either, Mike. I know how upset you are, how angry. But I know that you are above this. I know you can handle it. Oh, you know, don't you? You know I can just get over this, right? She looked away and didn't look back this time. Do you want to know what I think, Christy? I asked quietly. She glanced at me again, with concern in it, then she nodded hesitantly. Then it's okay. I think this is all, from start to finish. I think this whole protest thing just happened. It's spilling over into my boots right now. You don't just fall in love with Christ, and you know it. This is an effort of will. You have to do all these little things along the way, spend time together, look for each other, let the other person know that you are interested, jokes that no one else understands, little glances and touches, personal and intimate things. That's how you fall in love. And you don't do them unconsciously. You make a conscious choice to make them, at least it's a conscious choice not to stop yourself from doing them, and you know it. I know, even the damn Rooster Face here knows it. It was a direct attack on who Christy thought she was. She truly believed that she was moral and ethical and made good choices. There are times when you can get through to someone, but it usually takes someone they absolutely respect, the right words at the right time, and it's all too easy to get it wrong. And if they're deep in denial, as I've observed here, well, you might as well fart in a hurricane. In Christy's case, she was smart enough to know it was wrong, and she knew that I was not mistaken in my words. It will be very difficult for her to realize this reality once it is brought to her attention. You may not have intended to do this, but you certainly didn't stop, did you? This is Christy's deception. Every single thing you do, there is an emotional deception, even before, I'm sure, it turns into a dirty little intim fest. And you know it, even more light has been shed on this topic. I knew she would be thinking about it for days, then the next step. So, your excuse here is that I didn't need anything then, and it's all just a glance? In response, she began to understand what I was doing and got scared. Words can be a powerful thing when you know how to use them, and she knew I knew. Understand? So, has it ever occurred to you that if you have all this love left for your numb finger, then by definition, you are not giving it to me? You have somehow established some local amount of love that I should receive, and whatever is left you can give as you see fit, right? I'm so glad that you were able to put a figure on how much I should get. Please, you should write an article about this. I'm sure there are many other couples who would like to know what this number is, enough for him not to notice any flaw, right? She had more stares, with a pale face around the eyes. She knew perfectly well that now I would destroy her. What do you think your brother would say about this? Have you thought about this at all? Just idle curiosity. Christy raised her head and jutted her jaw, a sure sign that she was heading down a stubborn path. I don't think he would approve. But if I explained to him that I didn't want this to happen, that it just happened, that I want to be happy, and this is my path to it, he would understand. You know he wants the best for me. Her brother talked to me about it personally on our wedding day. He told me not to put up with her crap. It burns hot, but it burns quickly. Stand your ground, and she will come to her senses. He also explained that she has strange ideas, but when you come across them, just laugh at them, and eventually, she will understand. I don't think she will get the reception she expected. Yes, I think you are wishful thinking. I think the moment you explain that you screwed me up is what you did. Let's not sugarcoat it. You were with another man and then came home to me and lied about it. And there's no two ways about it. There's nothing you can do or say to change it. Then I think you will have something to say about it, is it not? Do you think your brother will approve or understand you, Christy? I made air quotes around to approve and understand. She lowered her eyes, then raised them again and said quietly, I know it will happen, like you knew I'd find a way to accept it, huh? 0 for 2 so far, baby. Not a very good result. She sniffled and rubbed her eyes. You know, even after I ask you to leave, you'll still be doing this. I looked at James, who was now looking at me with hatred. Even he understood what I was doing. How to leave? She asked weakly. After all, you love him, right? You said so yourself. So when I say go, where are you going to go? Don't tell me this wasn't part of your plans. I know it would be. So you're not stupid. You knew there was a chance I wouldn't go through with it. And from the way it's been worded so far, turning it down wasn't an option. So you'll leave. Have you already moved some of your things to his place? I would look, but I don't want to get up. Her voice came from somewhere far away. We thought. I thought you might need a little time to come to terms with the new. She trailed off, then tried a new track, ignoring the one she didn't want to answer. I'm not going to give up. Even if you make me leave, you are mine and I am yours. I will always be there, and you know it. So your plan was to live with a man who willingly and knowingly courted another man's wife? A person who does not respect other people's relationships in any way? A man of such stellar quality that he sits on my couch, drinks my beer, claims someone else's wife? So, this person who you connect your emotional life with, so what are your standards these days? Wow, it hit home, and I saw her sneak a glance at James, who looked at her shaking his head and smiling in a don't listen to that guy way. Babe, maybe he started, before I leaned forward. Last warning, James, I said as quietly and threateningly as possible. Or they'll call you one Jimmy, one ball. Understood? And he also associates himself with you, I continued, an admitted fraudster. Once a cheater, always a cheater, right? Well, you really deserve each other, that's for sure. And I'm sure it will be great. For starters, lots of guilt-free night. At least on your part. But when it gets boring, and you know it will, it always happens. What happens when he is late from work, or you? What then? Now you both know what you are capable of. How will it work? Who will suspect whom? She looked back at James, who shook his head with a weak smile and a that's trash expression, but the damage was done. Christy prided herself on her ability to read people. She was proud of her own ethics. She had already received a beating today, and she was smart enough to know the truth of my statements. And what's worse is that they were said. Now they were out there, somewhere. They couldn't simply be ignored. When this happens, and we all knew it would, it will be the first thing that comes to her mind in an emotionally charged situation like this. How can this not be the first thing? And yet, this relationship was doomed before it even began. That suspicion was there now, imposed, and it wasn't going to go away. In a way, their entire relationship was built on this lie, something that slowly dawned on her now. I was bringing it to her attention. Christy turned and looked at me with wide eyes. She knew what I said, and I knew it penetrated her. Right now, there is only superficial depth, but over time, it will go deeper. She got away with it because I trusted her. She knew he would never do that, and I just emphasized that fine wound. I still wanted my pound of flesh, so it's time to strike the killing blow. I took another sip of beer, this time emptying the can. I even burped. It was done casually and came out at just the right moment. But you know what? The only thing that really hit the mark more? Tearful glances. For a situation where they had to explain the new reality to me, she certainly didn't say much. Deep down, you're a pretty evil person. She deeply believed that she was a good person who could do something bad, but that was okay because she would feel terrible later. The fact that I had a vested interest in saying this will be ignored. That's what I was counting on. She will believe it, and there is nothing stronger than the belief that you inspire in yourself. Well then, fine. It's time to make her really feel terrible. The thing is, Christy, every time you look at yourself in the mirror, you will remember this day. What you said, what you did, what actions you took, the pain and personal destruction you caused. I'll ask you to leave in a second, and if you know what's good for you, you'll leave. I've never hit a woman before, and God knows I love you, but if you stay here, I won't be able to control myself. So, take with you the knowledge that you are an evil person, that everything you did here was evil incarnate, and understand that every one of our friends and your family will know it. You know that I can explain it in a way that they will understand. Just like you think about it, think about the results of your dirty little affair. You killed the only thing in your life that you could rely on, and there is no one, anyone, you can blame but yourself. If it were me, I would seek professional help. It's too late for this case, but if I were you, I'd probably want to know why, so I won't do it again. I hope Intimate makes up for everything you've lost. Now go. I just sat and looked at her, and she looked back. She wanted to say something but stopped and then blurted out, "But why? After all, you will still receive my love." I couldn't stand it anymore. I stood up as threateningly as I could and shouted, "Get the hell out of here, you damn idiot," and threw the empty beer can at the wall where it clinked. Not quite the effect I was hoping for, but I was too angry to care. She sank, and James rose to his feet, looking at the expression on my face. He looked away and, taking the clearly frightened Christy by the arm, pushed her towards the door. "Wait," I said, deciding to do the latter. It literally came to my mind in that second, a fitting tribute to the evening. I approached, and she backed away from me. I grabbed her left hand and opened the small fist she had made into a flat palm. I pulled the engagement and wedding rings off her finger before she could stop me, then stepped back. Then I also took off mine and, clenching them in my fist, said, "To hell with them." I walked to the toilet by the front door, just behind the kitchen, and walked in, leaving it open. Looking back at her gray face, I threw all the rings into the toilet and then, without looking, flushed the water. Seems appropriate. You flushed our marriage down the toilet, so the rings will go down the toilet. I knew it hurt. She loved those rings. She spent 3 months searching for the right rings and ordered them from the metal smelted from her father's ring. I didn't enjoy it, but it was symbolic, and right now, honestly, I just wanted to hurt her. I don't feel very good now, but I have to be honest about how I felt at that moment. She made a sound at what I did, muttering, "No, no, no," in a very quiet voice. "One more thing," I said and punched James right in the face. Christy just looked at him, then back at me. I rubbed my fist and winced. "Now you can go. Tomorrow I'll change the locks. Expect to be served. We're done." She knew it, and so did I. She wouldn't be able to look at herself in the mirror again without seeing this scene. She won't be able to look her friends in the eye and will forever regret the events of today, what led up to this, what she did to our relationship, and who she thought she was. And at that moment, I did not have a drop of sympathy. I was abused, betrayed, cuckolded, and damn, I was angry and about to get my pound of flesh. It occurred to me that she might even do something drastic, but at that very moment, I'm ashamed to admit I didn't care. Again, hardly a good feeling to have for a while, but I was so devastated that I didn't care at that point. It makes me look like a jerk, but like I said, I'm not so easy to live with because of moments like this. She knelt down next to him, fussing, and I literally grabbed him by the hair, opened the apartment door, and pushed him out without a word. Christy followed me in shock, and as soon as they were out the door, I stepped back inside and slammed the door in their faces. I stood there for a moment, trembling, then turned and walked back into the living room, grabbing the bottle of peach-flavored vodka on the kitchen table. I knew it wouldn't help, and I had no intention of drinking myself to death, although I now needed a couple of healthy sips to calm down. Life was for the winner, and I swear to God I didn't mean to be a victim, even though I was. I just needed to find a way forward. Tomorrow will be another day. Christy says I still don't know how it happened, or more accurately, why I allowed it to happen. Mike was right. I didn't just fall in love with James. It all started innocently, at least on my part, with a random lunch or drink after work. I didn't think much of it at the time, but looking back, I don't believe James was innocent. James was attractive, no more than Mike, just different, and his charisma simply drew me in until I was caught like a fly in a spider's web. I know now, and should have known then, that I should have broken up with James. But hey, it was all innocent fun, right? What's bad about it? The harm was that we developed the relationship like any new couple. There was only one problem. I was already in a relationship with Mike, my husband, and had no right to enter into a relationship with another man. It all started when he gently took me by the elbow as we were leaving the office, and then put his arm around my waist. We were soon exchanging jokes, first about the people in the office, and then I was telling him about Mike and his Jedi mind tricks, as I called them. James chuckled knowingly at the jokes and rolled his eyes along with me when I started being sarcastic about Mike. Soon, we were exchanging friendly kisses and growing closer emotionally. And unless I made a conscious decision every time we took a step towards infidelity, I certainly did nothing to stop it. The turning point came when Mike went on a trip, doing his Jedi mind trick, and James talked me into a dinner of drinks and dancing. We had already progressed from friendly kisses on the cheek to long kisses on the lips. There was no tongue, but obviously, it was only a matter of time. And yet, I couldn't stop. I know that now it sounds stupid and selfish, but for some reason, it seemed to me that this was normal only because there was no language. I didn't feel like it would really be much different from our dinners, never taking into account the debilitating effect of alcohol. A cocktail before dinner, a couple of glasses of wine with dinner, and I was already pretty high before we even got to the club. We started off innocently enough, another cocktail, a few dances, nothing untoward. During the slow dancing, we were taking a break when James began his more overt seduction. "Christy, you need to know how I feel about you," he said. "You should feel our connection." I knew even then that it was seduction, despite my alcohol-clouded judgment, but he stroked my ego. Even when I tried to reject him, "Well, James," I said, giggling, "you know I'm married. I could never cheat on Mike." Even as I said those words, I could feel my resolve weakening, becoming aroused at the thought of another man wanting me. As the evening wore on, the drinking became more plentiful, the slow dancing became more intimate, and my attempts to move his hands to more respectable places became weaker and weaker before disappearing altogether. The slow dance ended with me wrapping my arms around his neck and his hands tightly gripping my fifth place. I looked up at him as he leaned in to kiss me on the lips. All pretense dropped as our tongues met. James tried to talk me into going to his house, but I had enough brain cells left to know that would be a serious mistake. Every time Mike left, the same thing happened: dinner, drinks, dancing, and soon, we were kissing in the car again. Despite all my claims later that we simply fell in love, the simple fact was that I continued to make the decision to meet James. I knew it was wrong, and I was not a passenger on the trip. I was an active participant. I've been teetering on the edge for weeks now. James kept increasing the pressure on me to move on, and I finally gave in without putting up any resistance. When James led me to his apartment as we left a trail of clothes from the bedroom door, I was momentarily distracted by Mike ringing on my phone. I pulled myself together before answering, and we exchanged the usual sweet words before ending the conversation. If I had been thinking rationally, I would have taken the call as a sign from above, gotten dressed, and returned to my daily life. Unfortunately, James took this moment to start nibbling on my neck. James stood up, took off his clothes, and we had an intim like it was our last time. I'll make it clear right now that James was not some kind of god of love. He was a competent lover, again, nothing that would make me pack my bags and run away with him. Just different. It was obviously exciting, but I'm sure that was mainly due to the illegal nature of what we were doing. As soon as I regained my ability to think rationally, I panicked. I jumped out of bed, ignoring James' pleas to come back, got dressed, and ran away. When I got home, I undressed and threw my clothes into the laundry room, even throwing out my underwear. I jumped into the shower and scrubbed myself until I bled, as if cleansing myself physically could relieve my guilt. I managed to drag myself to work where I was practically useless. I ignored James's calls and messages and then headed home. I couldn't believe what I had done. I cheated on my husband, the person I loved more than anything in the world. I feared and prayed for Mike's call and managed to maintain an aura of normalcy. Life continued for several more days. I was still avoiding James when Mike returned home from his trip. I almost pounced on him when he walked through the door, dragged him into the bedroom, and ravished him. I'm sure he was wondering what had gotten into me, but the grin on his face showed that he really didn't care. When our lives returned to normal, I calmed down. My affair with James had no effect on our marriage. I thought I reconnected with James, although I tried to keep it platonic at first. Time passed, and we started to get closer again. The next time Mike left, I ended up in James's bed again, this time for the duration of Mike's trip. I was becoming too self-confident. I had a loving husband whom I adored, and when he was out of town, I had James, and no one got hurt. Then James decided to ruin everything. He started to become possessive and wanted more than I could give him. "Christy, I'm falling in love with you, and I hate this creeping thing. Can't we see each other more often? It kills me that I can only see you when Mike is away," he said. "Listen, James, I like you," I said, seeing his disappointment that I didn't say I loved him. "My marriage is very important to me, and if meeting you puts my marriage in jeopardy, you will disappear." This caused him to retreat for a while, but I found that my feelings for him became stronger. I believed that I was in love with James, maybe not exactly the same feelings of love that I felt for Mike, but I explained it by the fact that I have a longer history with Mike. In the end, James wore me down. He was able to convince me that our love, although not the same as Mike's, had the same value and deserved the same respect. We decided it was time to go out into the open. This brings me to that fateful meeting with Mike, where he quite convincingly made me see the error of my ways. All the flaws, big and small, are in the convenient story I built for myself, hiding my betrayal. But it was too late. Mike threw us out, and to my horror, flushed our rings down the toilet. James was so angry. What if he thinks he can hit me and get away with it? He's crazy. I'll call the cops, and then he'll laugh from the other side of the bars, I thought. "No, James," I said. "I can't let you do that. I love Mike. I hope when he cools down, we can still work things out. But right now, he's in pain. We hurt him, and I refuse to make it worse." "What do you mean you can't let me do this? You saw what he did." "It's bad enough that he probably broke my nose," James protested. "I know, James, but it's really my fault. I probably shouldn't have taken you with me. I really didn't think you would take it so badly." "I really thought he would understand," I replied. "I think you forgot something," James said sadly, hugging me, trying to console me. "Mike is just in for treating you like that. He's not in, James. He is a kind, loving person and feels that I betrayed him," I defended Mike. "Let's go take you to the emergency room. Just remember, you tripped and fell on your face, okay?" I suggested. He didn't like it, but James agreed, and I took him to the hospital. They looked at us doubtfully, maybe they would have a harder time if I was the one with the broken nose. Eventually, they were so busy that they decided they had better things to do than argue with an adult over his own injuries. After he was patched up, I took James home and put him to bed. I slept on a couch that wasn't too uncomfortable so I wouldn't accidentally hit his nose in my sleep, hoping that when I woke up, it would all just be a terrible nightmare. I know it sounds cold, but I was glad to get away from James for the night. I just stared out the window for a while, hoping against hope that I could make peace with Mike without giving up on James. Is this too much to ask for? No luck, as I woke up with the events of the previous day all too fresh in my mind. What should I do now? I didn't want to lose Mike. But it turned out that the decision was made without me. Then another thought struck me. We were supposed to meet my family for lunch that day. How do I explain Mike's absence? I had no real hope that he might appear. I showered, got dressed, left James with the ibuprofen, and went to my parents. My family is very perceptive and noticed both Mike's absence and my miserable mood. My mother was the only one who decided to address the elephant in the room. "Where's Mike? Is he okay?" she asked, concern evident in her voice. "Well, sort of," I said without looking her in the eyes. "Something like that." "What kind of answer is this?" she pressed. We had a little fight last night, and he threw me out." "I spent the night with a friend," I said, choosing not to mention it was a male friend. "My brother hit the ceiling." "What did he do?" "I'll show him that he can't do that to my little sister," he exclaimed, ready to defend my honor. He was out the door before I could stop him, and I fell to my knees, crying. My father knew me better than anyone, even my mother, and immediately realized that there was more to the story than what I had told them. He let me cry a little before kneeling down next to me. "Christy, what's really going on?" "I know Mike. He wouldn't just throw you out unless he thought he had a very good reason." "What did you do?" he asked gently. This only brought another wave of tears out of me, and just as I was starting to come to my senses, the door burst open, and my brother burst into the room. He didn't look happy, he just looked at me sadly with quiet disappointment, and it hurt me more than if he had yelled at me. I looked into his eyes and realized that he knew. He knew that I had betrayed the man who loved me. He shook his head sadly and turned to my mother. "Why don't you ask her why Mike kicked her out, Bill?" I pleaded, trying to stop him. "Oh no," he said, ignoring my plea. "You shouldn't play the innocent victim here. Little Miss Christie was deceiving Mike behind his back." "What?" my mom screamed over my sobs. "This is not even the most important thing," Bill continued with disgust on his face. When Mike returned home, he found Christy sitting with her lover. She seemed to be too worried about sneaking around, but not enough to stop. She wanted to keep dating this, and she wanted Mike to agree. The terrible looks from my parents made me want to crawl under the rug, but there was nowhere to hide. "You're my sister, Christ, and I love you, but I've lost all respect for you. And if you think I'm going to support you in this, you're sadly mistaken," he said as he walked out the door. If I expected any more sympathy from my parents, I was mistaken. "Christ," my father said, "I understand that difficult times have come for you, but you brought them on yourself. You can stay in your old room for a while until you come to your senses, but I think you should seriously think about your future as a single woman. Knowing Mike, I wouldn't expect him to take you back." I know I wouldn't. I couldn't admit that I was planning to move in with James. My family was already very disappointed in me. I couldn't let them think less of me. My father turned and walked away, and my mother burst into tears. I ran to my old room, bursting into tears. Pretty soon, I was served with divorce papers. I put up some token resistance, but I knew it was hopeless. I eventually signed the papers, and after a period of waiting, my marriage was annulled. James, of course, was delighted. He won. He never thought about what I had lost. I came close to breaking up with him several times. I resented his role in destroying my marriage, refusing to admit my guilt. I knew that I was only deceiving myself. I was already haunted by nightmares, but I was afraid that I would go crazy if I came face to face with my guilt. My own stubbornness would not allow me to give up on James. I lost my marriage because of him. Breaking up with him would mean that everything was in vain. I don't know if it was the power of suggestion, but some of Mike's predictions began to come true. We were very suspicious of each other, and it put all thoughts of marriage to rest. James came into the office a couple of times to invite me to lunch and came again while I was talking with Stuart, the new sales representative. He was handsome in a boyish way, and that time he had just told me a joke, and I looked at him, laughing. Out of the corner of my eye, I caught sight of James as he turned on his heel and ran out of my office. I grabbed my purse and ran after him. I caught up with him just as the elevator doors were closing and squeezed into the elevator with James. "What's the matter, James? Why did you run away? Who are you talking to?" Is your new boyfriend laughing at the poor guy who thinks he's your boyfriend? I asked, puzzled. What are you talking about? This is Stuart Olin, our new sales representative. He was just telling me a funny story about how his daughter did a cute thing. He is happily married. He will never cheat on his wife, James explained. You were a happy married woman. That didn't stop you, he exclaimed and rushed away when the doors opened. I somehow managed to catch up with him despite the high heels. You have damn strong nerves, I said. My happy marriage didn't seem to bother you when you came for me. It wasn't that hard to take you, he snapped. I took a deep breath to calm my nerves. Look, James, we both work with people of the opposite intimate, some of whom may be particularly attractive. I know this may be harder for us than most, considering how we started, but if we want our relationship to work, we just have to learn to trust each other, I said. James thought about my words for a moment, nodded, hugged me, and kissed me tenderly, and we went to dinner. Things calmed down for a while, although there were still a few hiccups, like the time I showed up a little late to one of his office parties to find his secretary too up close and personal with him. I almost pushed her away when I pulled him over to the corner to give him a load of for the rest of the night and a couple of days after that. I behaved like on wheels, but then we calmed down again. One night, I forgot to tell James the first had a dinner meeting, and my phone kept buzzing with incoming messages until I finally turned it off. It was only when I returned home to a smoking James that I realized I had forgotten to turn it on again. Where the hell have you been? James shouted. Maybe I should ask who you were tumbling with. What are you talking about? I told you I have a dinner meeting tonight, and I'll probably be a little late, I replied, taken aback. Did you do this? James asked reproachfully. Where was I when we were talking? I had to rack my brains. Crap. I was going to tell him, but he was in the bathroom, and I was late and had to go to the office. Lord, I'm sorry, James. You were in the bathroom, and I had to go. Couldn't you call me? I explained hurriedly. I was out all day, and to be honest, I thought I told you, so I didn't feel the need to call or text you. So why did you ignore my messages? James reluctantly accepted my explanation, and after a couple of cold days, our relationship returned to normal. It was like a roller coaster. We were either caught up in passion or harbored hidden or not so hidden suspicions. It was like they say, he will cheat on you, or he will cheat on you, or vice versa. I already started to doubt Mike was right. Maybe I'm fooling myself. Maybe deep down, I was an evil person. Maybe that's why I couldn't find true happiness, no matter what I did. I just couldn't come to terms with it. Yes, I did something bad, even evil, but I was a good person. It was the only thing I was sure of, what I clung to like a drowning person to the wreckage of a ship. I was close to the breaking point. If we don't resolve this issue, one or both of us will leave. I knew it was selfish of me, but James was just wasting his time, and I was losing my marriage. We eventually sought counseling, and while I would love to say that we had a blinding flash of understanding and fell into each other's arms, promising our everlasting love, the sad truth is that our feelings after Mike kicked us out were more sincere than we would like. Our romance was built on deception. It was simply unrealistic to think that there could be any other ending to the fairy tale. Despite what may have seemed like bad news, we actually felt relieved that our feelings were more or less normal and began to think seriously about marriage. I have to say that I was happy with our relationship, although I didn't enjoy the deep connection I felt with Mike. But something was still nagging me, and I finally decided to seek individual counseling to try to deal with it. Through counseling, I realized that my affair was my subconscious compensation for my inability to have children. Although I wasn't completely free of guilt, being able to point the finger at something, anything, to explain what I truly felt was deviant behavior on my part, was a huge relief. I walked out of the psychologist's office feeling better than I had in months, to find Mike with another woman. I was pleasantly surprised that it was not a red-haired paralegal, but a woman who looked a lot like me. Maybe he missed me and used her to replace me in his life. Maybe I can convince him to return the original. I completely forgot about James. I walked towards them, but before they could notice me, the woman turned sideways towards me, revealing her pregnant belly, as Mike rocked the little boy in his arms. I turned away with tears in my eyes and ran, finally realizing that I had truly lost everything. I realized it was time to make a painful decision and slowly trudged back to James and home. James looked up from his laptop as I walked through the door. "How did it go, baby?" he asked. Judging by the expression on his face, he must have understood everything. "James, we need to talk," I said, the cliché almost stuck in my throat. He just gave me a worried look. I wonder if he thought I was going to admit to cheating. "James, I think it's better for us to separate," I said, my voice trembling. "Who is he?" James spat. "I should have known that you would eventually cheat on me. Once a deceiver, always a deceiver." I couldn't stop laughing. "Funny you didn't seem to mind my cheating when I cheated with you." "No, there's no one else. There probably won't be for a while." It took me some time, but I realized that our entire relationship was built on a weak foundation of lies and betrayal. Even after all our consultations, we can hardly stay out of each other's sight. I think we should take a clean break and start moving on with our lives. Who knows, maybe after some time, we will meet again and start all over again, this time. James laughed in my face. "I wouldn't hold your breath," he said. "You think I can't find other women to warm my bed? Maybe this time, I won't put all my eggs in one basket. Maybe next time, I won't be so stupid as to go after a woman who cheats on the man she claims to love. Lord, what an you are. I don't know what made me betray Mike. I'll just pack my bag and get out of here. I'll come back later for the rest of the things." "Don't let the door hit you in the fifth place when you leave," he shouted to me. I held myself together until I put my bag in the trunk. Then, I laid my head on the steering wheel and burst into tears. I abandoned my marriage, and now I realized that I refused in vain. I didn't know what the future held for me, but I was determined to face it, maybe sadder, but definitely wiser. Subscribe to our channel so that your second half doesn't cheat on you. And go ahead and listen to the next story because this story is nothing compared to the next one. If you're under 18, don't even think about listening to the next one. What do you think of our story today? It seems to me that in this story the wife was completely wrong and betrayed her husband in the most hurtful way possible. What is your opinion? Write in the comments. Until new videos.